This is Gone at 21, Evidentiary Notes, Episode 4. In this episode of Evidentiary Notes, we're going to listen to portions of the second interview, face-to-face interview that I had with John Carter and his mom, Karyn Winkler. There was civil action that was filed by Karyn Winkler in 2012, and Katelyn's name was on the documentation in Hamilton County, not Butler County, which she resided in and Katelyn resided in. So I wasn't sure why Katelyn was a named party in a civil action in Hamilton County that Karyn filed. I learned that it was in reference to a car that they owned together.
What happened was the police wouldn't release it. Finally, I wrote to one of the commissioners. What are they called? City council members.
Yeah,
the person in charge of city council, and said, I don't know if you can help me. I was just told to write you, but the police are not releasing the car. This is a burden, financial burden on me, because I was also making her $350 a month college tuition payments at the same time. Okay? Because she had been technically out of school.
Right.
So by now I'm losing money and just beside myself. I wasn't able to make ends meet putting this kind of money.
Because you could have sold the car if you had the car.
No, I couldn't, because Katelyn's name and my name were on the car.
We were expecting, we were hoping she would come back. We didn't want to give her car away.
Right.
So what happened is now I need to sell the car. I get the car back, finally. The day after I sent that email, they called me to come get the car. I get the car back. A friend of mine, a girl I worked with, her husband had helped me before, and he said he would help me again. So I went to him and I said to him, here's my concern. My concern is that I know you're going to have to publish this somewhere because she's technically missing, and we have to give her the opportunity to come for her car. And I said, but I'm worried about it being published in Fairfield.
Right.
He goes, well, actually, since you're coming to Butler or Hamilton County, we'll publish it in Hamilton County.
Okay.
So they published it, and I think it took me almost 4 months to get the title cleared. Then I wound up keeping it for a couple of months, and it was just killing me. It was just too hard.
So that was just to clear the title?
All I did was clear the title so I could sell the car.
Okay.
Because I owed so much. I owed quite a bit on it. We had put repairs in.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm not sure why she'd be scared to publish the notice in Fairfield, unless she thought people were going to think poorly of her, mainly the people that were talking, as John liked to put it, amongst themselves on Facebook. I didn't think Karyn paid attention to the Facebook people. So it just kind of is a question that I have. Why would she be scared to publish it in Fairfield? Why did she have to go a county over and to publish a notice to clear the title so she could sell the car? There had also been speculation that Karyn knew administrators at the Fairfield Police Department, and that's why the case wasn't going anywhere. And of course, I questioned that. I did not believe that no matter what my thoughts of the Fairfield Police Department were, that they would jeopardize not only their jobs but their freedom. So I asked Karyn about her connections or lack of connections at the Fairfield Police Department. Do you know anyone at the Fairfield Police Department?
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. I work for Fairfield City School District during this whole time, and we have 2 main resource officers at the high school, and one was at the intermediate school where my office was. I've known them for 13 years. They're the resource officers. They're the ones that walk me to the car when the lights are out. They're the ones, and they've been good friends of mine. The resource officer at the intermediate school, his wife was one of my 3 secretaries. Okay. So, yeah.
Do you know anybody high up, like police chief?
No, I met with the police chief one time.
Okay. Karyn explains her need to clean up the site where Katelyn was found, and also explains going to Cedar Grove with Detective Irvin.
You mean
did Becky ever take? Did Rebecca ever take you?
Okay, the news reports were referring to it as a dump site. That her body was dumped in a dump site, and they were showing this area. Becky had come to me and told me that she was found, and I said, Becky, I need you to let me know when I can go there and clean it up. I don't want it to be constantly referred to as a dump site.
Okay.
And I said, and when you're allowed, I want to go out there. So she came to my house. It was a rainy day, and she and I drove out there. And she drove me. I was in her car. She drove her car. We went out there, and she showed me where it was, and we talked for a while.
All right, I just have to cut in here real quick. David Markham was never driven to Cedar Grove, Indiana by the police. The victim's father was never picked up at his house, like driving Miss Daisy, and escorted out to Cedar Grove, where his daughter was found. It's okay if you want to do this to the fiance's mother, to see if she has any more information that she's telling you, or to strike up a conversation and maybe get somewhere. But the first thing you should have done as a police detective, when it was confirmed that those bones were Katelyn's, is to pick that man, David Markham, up and drive him out to where his daughter was found. And he was left alone. He had to drive out there himself. Unbelievable. Victim advocates, I don't think so. Absolutely not for the family of victims. This is absolutely ridiculous. And to then give her permission to clean up the scene where Katelyn was found? Hey, that's policing at its best, let me tell you. Actually, with my experience, in my opinion, it's one of the most sorry displays of policing. Especially knowing after all this took place, that when Indiana got involved, Fairfield Police Department didn't reach out to David Markham for over 2 years. 2 years. The Fairfield Police Department, a couple miles up the street from where David Markham lived, didn't even touch base with him. Let's hear the rest of what Karyn has to say about this subject.
And I asked her, please let me know when I can clean it up. She goes, Karyn, you can come anytime. I said, are they finished with this area? Because you could see a big area, big clear. She goes, Karyn, they've taken everything they need. I said, she goes, the most you would find is maybe like a tiny little, she didn't mention the femur, but she said, or maybe a little tiny finger bone. You might find something like that. She said, but I highly doubt it. I said, well, do you want me to bring the trash with me to the police station so you can go through it? She said, absolutely not, Karyn, not unless, you have something you're concerned about, but you're not going to find anything. So I had complete permission. As a matter of fact, Abby and my stepdaughter, Nicole, and I went out. It was pouring down rain, but I was like, I only want to come out here one time. I want this trash out of here. Everything we went through, and it was old hoses. What happened was, and what Becky told me, is that it wasn't really a dump site. This woman had a barn, and the old woman, and she hired her grandsons to clean out the barn. And they cleaned out the barn, and instead of taking it to an actual dump, they just threw it on the side of the road. I absolutely had no intention of going there, and I've never been again.
Okay. So you went there, you cleaned up. Where did you dump the trash? Did you just take it out to the...
I put it in a dumpster.
Okay.
Actually at Twin Lakes.
Okay.
It was the only place I knew where it's a dumpster.
Yeah, it was just a dumpster, not a trash compactor?
I think it was a trash compactor.
It was, okay. Just a quick note, no matter how you clean it up, Katelyn was thrown in a trash dump on the side of the road. Not sure what her motivation for doing this was. Katelyn, for the most part, was already taken out of that site. So she was no longer there, and it was private property. What's the motivation for someone that's not a blood relative of a victim, going and cleaning up a site? I've heard about it as far as family members cleaning up a little bit of the site to put a cross or something like that, which did happen. But going and actually picking up the tires and the rubbish that was already there, I don't know. Maybe we all grieve in different ways, and that was part of her grieving, but it was very odd and suspicious to me that she would go to that site and clean up. Because we all know they didn't find a femur and a hip bone. What else did they miss? I wanted more information on this bag of documents that John burned for Katelyn. What was in it? Where was the bag kept? What did it look like? So I asked John those questions.
Where did Katelyn keep the paperwork that you might have already told me this. I've forgotten.
It was the Abercrombie and Fitch bag.
But where in the apartment? Yeah.
It was like by the stairs, and it was by the back door when she picked it up.
Okay.
When she picked it up, it was like right next to the door, and she was like, "I need to get rid of this stuff." Like she picked it up and looked at me and was like, "I need to get rid of this stuff," and I just grabbed it. Like, this is mine then.
Yeah. Did you see that bag in like a closet or anything?
Let me kind of give you a background real quick on that. Katelyn, of course, was getting ready to move. She goes, "Karyn, I have all these bills and receipts. I save everything. And I don't know what I'm supposed to keep and what I'm not supposed to keep." Well, my mother, years and years ago, had given me a list of how long you keep things, like tax returns for 7 years and this and this and this. So I gave Katelyn a copy of that, and she said, "Oh, great, I can go get rid of some of this stuff." I said, "Perfect." So that was her intention, was to go through whatever she had and get rid of all the excess stuff so she wasn't moving it, because they were really limited on what they were going to bring with them to Colorado.
Okay.
So it would have come from various places. It wasn't like this bag was sitting in and of itself all the time.
After receiving this bag of documents, I wanted to know if John went straight to Travis's house, or did he stop off anywhere? That's important. Also, listen to John's reaction when I call it a burning instead of a bonfire or a get-together. It's quite interesting.
Did you go straight to the burning, or did you stop anywhere first?
I don't believe I stopped anywhere.
Okay.
The burning, though?
The fire.
The fire.
The fire.
I'm sorry.
It sounds so malicious when you say
malicious. You were burning documents. I called it a burning, but it's malicious. Is that oversensitivity, or maybe he just doesn't like the word burning? So I went ahead and asked John what he thought happened again. Just by chance, maybe he would tell me this time. And he told me about coping mechanisms he uses. One in particular. So let's listen to John talk about his coping with Katelyn's murder.
Generally, I say what I told you, because that's how I feel. Is that I don't like to ponder it, because it's either I'm thinking about every single possibility that could be, or none at all, you know, and I'm trying not to get caught in the middle of that. Like, people have come to me and said, you're handling it so well, and I don't think I can really do it like that. But really, what it is just I have coping mechanisms. The biggest one is that I can't think about her murder. I can't sit here and talk, or her accident, or whatever the flip it is. It could be anything. So I'm not going to sit here and dwell on that.
If it were my fiance, I'd be dwelling on it all the time and thinking about it all the time and trying to get answers every single minute of the day. That's just me, though. So Karyn adds a little something to this about a possible stalker she thinks is responsible for Katelyn's disappearance and death.
Can I comment on that one real quick too, please? I have said very openly that I truly believe with my whole heart someone was stalking her, and I don't know who it is. Katelyn was very open with everybody and said way too much of her business to everybody she knew. So there are many people who knew she was moving out. There are many people who knew that this was probably the last time she was going to be alone anywhere. And I feel very strong, and that it happened after John left.
Right.
I truly believe someone had been watching her and wanted her to be with them.
Like a neighbor?
I could not say who. For some reason, I have in my head that it's either somebody from the school she went to or somebody from Fairfield, probably close to her age, that was in love with her and wanted her. And they were going to take her and convince her that she was to be with them.
Yeah.
And in this obsession, an accident happened.
Right.
I can't in my heart believe that anyone would have ill will to Katelyn and kill her on purpose.
Oddly enough, Matt Rokamp shared what he described as stalker-type activity from an individual that went to high school with Katelyn. We're going to take a look at that in episode 3 of the investigation. I did ask John, was there anybody that had a sexual interest in Katelyn? And he said not that he knew of. But Matt, his best friend, said, yeah, there was. And we'll find out later on that he said some things a couple weeks prior to Katelyn disappearing that will send a shiver down your spine. John explains Katelyn's blunt runs and who exactly her drug dealer was for pot.
Blunt runs to go get marijuana, whatever.
Or to smoke it.
Yeah, to smoke it. Who would she usually go with? And who was her supplier, like her dealer?
Okay. Firstly, she didn't have a dealer.
Okay.
That was me. I would buy weed and then
Okay.
Secondly, it probably wasn't her weed that she'd be smoking.
Okay.
It'd be whoever picked her up, which would be
Okay.
Mary or Katie.
Katie Collingsworth. Katie Harris.
Sarah Collingsworth.
I'm sorry.
Not exactly closest friends towards the end there. She just lived her own life. It wasn't that they were mad at each other or anything like that. She just had her own things going on. Same with Michelle. I mean, it was kind of the same deal. Like, it wasn't that they were mad at each other. They just didn't hang out anymore. Not as much.
So, out of Katie and Mary, that's who she would have just jumped in a car with and smoked.
Yeah, but I mean, it wasn't like just jump in a car type of a thing. It was like,
Ride around?
Call you.
Okay.
And we're going to meet, I'm going to come pick you up and we'll go hang out. Like, it's a planned thing. It's not like they just surprised her every now and then.
So now you know the definition of a blunt run. Someone coming, picking you up, driving around, smoking dope. That's what the definition was, according to John. My next question. Who knew about the property in Indiana?
Few. Matt.
Most of them.
Rokamp. Yeah, I mean, a lot of them did.
How many times did you bring friends out there? I mean, think about all the friends you brought out there.
Honestly, I gotta say, the people that I would have brought out with me would have been really close friends,
Right.
People that...
To know how to get there.
Yeah, and I mean, even then, it's kind of a complicated way to get there. I mean, eventually you're on a
Way
back
it
road,
Mm-hmm.
and that's, the way I go. I take Highway 1 and go down that way.
Okay.
I'll still give you names. Jake Presley and Nick Mitchell.
I mean, we talked about the property a lot. We owned it for a while.
Yeah. My dad is actually living there now.
So John's saying, if I'm hearing him correctly, he takes 275 to I-74 to Route 1 to get to Laurel, Indiana, to the property. Okay. Here's Karyn talking about the Matt Rokamp relationship with John.
Matt Rokamp, I just love him to death.
Right.
He would go on those searches barefoot because he didn't like wearing shoes. And he is kind of hippie and...
Not anymore.
Oh, he's not anymore? He was kind of hippie and, all of that. But there is not one person on the face of this earth that would show up whenever John needed anything. That kid would throw himself in front of a car for John.
Okay.
And I just want to make sure.
John and Karyn go on to tell me that Matt Rokamp has a picture of John tattooed on his leg. Now that's some friendship right there. Before ending this interview, I had to ask John the questions. The questions aren't comfortable, but I had to ask him. Here's John's answers.
Did you kill Katelyn Markham?
No.
Okay. Do you know who killed Katelyn Markham?
No.
Do you know what happened to Katelyn Markham?
No.
That concludes this episode of Evidentiary Notes. Please join me Friday, March 3rd, for The Investigation, Episode 3. If you like this podcast, please like and subscribe. If you're listening on iTunes, please also rate and review. If you would like to help support this podcast, please go to Gone at 21 Facebook page. There, you will find a GoFundMe link pinned to the top of the wall. Just press the link, and any amount you're willing to give will be greatly appreciated. Until next time, I'm Jay Ryan. Take care.